To say the first Sunday of the NFL season has been one to remember. Welcome into Game Day Recap. I'm Haley Sutton. I've got a great cast of characters to take you through the biggest storylines each and every Sunday. You'll meet them soon. But first, let's get you caught up on what we have seen so far on this first NFL Sunday. The Bucs taking a big step forward there in the NFC South. They pick up their first win over the Falcons. Were you surprised to see this? The Dolphins almost getting shut out by the Colts and Daniel Jones. We're going to talk about that shortly as well. Bo Nix, a scary game for him. He made some questionable decisions. We'll talk about that as well. And how about the Packers standing tall? So much to get to, but let's talk to those characters I just told you about, because we're starting out with a familiar face. We've got our guy Pete Prisco. You love him, you hate him, it doesn't matter. You have to respect him. He's got 37 years of NFL knowledge in the business in that, 5'8", 5'9" frame you got over there,
I wish
Pete
it was
Prisco?
5'8" or 5'9". I shrunk as I got older.
We've also got our quarterback filling in for us today, Danny Kanell, ACC Player of the Year. I won't mention the year because you've asked me not to in the past. But we've got our quarterback.
Yes, 1995.
Okay, you said it. 1995. Yeah. I was 1 year old when you won that award.
Wow.
Just
rub his face in it, don't you?
And of course, we need a character who's going to keep us all even keel here. We're going to the front office, a guy who's going to shoot us straight. Ran Carthon, of course, one of the accomplishments you told me when we were leading into this was becoming an NFL GM. You are now our NFL GM as we sit here and get Game Day Recap started. We're going to get the conversation started, fellas, with the game we just saw wrap up on CBS, the Lions and the Packers. And guys, man, the Packers stood strong in this one. Pete, I'll come to you first to talk about it because you've been high on this team for 2 years it has felt like, and here they are. They set the tone. What'd you think?
I think it's been like 7 or 8 that I've picked to go to the Super Bowl. This team is really good. Before they made the trade for Micah Parsons, I thought they would be a Super Bowl team, in large part because young players played last year and got experience. And when guys get experience from year 1 to year 2, year 2 to year 3, and they've played a lot of football, that usually tells you the team is moving in the right direction. And Jordan Love was hurt all last year, was healthy again. But the biggest difference and the biggest change we saw today was the defense. Not just Micah Parsons, across the board. Lucas Van Ness made a ton of plays today. Rashad Gary made a ton of plays today. This team is much better defensively than they've been in recent years, and I think that's the biggest difference.
They looked like a Super Bowl contender, for sure. And I think these two teams are clearly going to be at the top of the class in the division. And I think the next time they go to Detroit could be another factor in who ends up winning this one. But you mentioned, I thought Jordan Love looked absolutely sensational today, spreading the football around, 10 different targets, 10 different receivers caught passes today from him. He looked like he was seeing the field really well, throwing with anticipation, had really good protection up front. I think that's the key. This feels like it could be a breakout season for the young Green Bay quarterback.
I mean, if you think about historically the Green Bay Packers, you think offense, right? Going back to the Brett Favre's days, they lived and died with the offense. Now I think it's flipped a little bit. I think they become a more balanced unit. And like Pete was saying, prior to Micah Parsons coming here, it was giving this unit under defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley another opportunity to play in this scheme. And having experience with this scheme allows you to just play free. And that's why you see those guys flying around the ball. And like you said, you can mention the Lucas Van Ness, the Rashawn Garys. Micah Parsons even made some impact plays. So you're going to see this continue to grow as these guys get more familiar with playing with each other, and then Micah Parsons is allowed to play more snaps.
Let's just say this. I felt really good about my Super Bowl pick. I feel 10 times better about it today.
Of course, you like the Packers and the Bills. The Bills playing right now. We'll keep you updated as that score rolls along. But, Pete, something you talked about before we move on to our next game is on the other side of this matchup with the Lions. And I think all of us, we had some concerns, the new coordinators, right? A couple of guys coming back. But you pointed out during the game that their big three had maybe 50 yards combined between the three of them. Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Jamison Williams, and some of those other characters. How disappointing were the Lions in this matchup?
Well, they had that yardage before that last garbage time touchdown they scored late. That drive, they got some yards on that. But it's very concerning. And anytime you make a change at offensive coordinator, there's going to be issues. And it's going to be, when you lose a guy like Ben Johnson, you're going to have some change. And when you have change, and remember, that was the whole thing. Ben Johnson's creative. What does he do? Where's his gimmicky tricks and everything? Well, they didn't run a lot of that stuff today. So I think there's going to be a transition period. I know John Morton has worked with Dan Campbell in the past. It didn't look like the same offense today. Having said that, you're on the road in the opener against a good defense, and sometimes you get caught up in that situation and just can't get it going.
I also think when I think of Ben Johnson, I think of a team that runs the football really well. And then you can base a lot of those shot plays off of play action and sneaking guys out when you get the team to suck up. When you can only rush for 46 yards as a team, and David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs did not get going, either one of them, and that's why you saw Jared Goff. We were looking at his numbers before the show. It's a lot of underneath stuff, a lot of checkdowns. In order to get teams to play up and bring more safeties down, you've got to run the football. And that was probably something that I think Detroit and Dan Campbell is going to go back and say, we've got to get better. And I do think the change on the offensive line. You were all over this. Frank Ragnow retires. Rookie Tate Radledge at guard. I thought that was a little bit exposed somewhat today. But I still feel pretty good about the Lions. It was in Lambeau. They went against the juggernaut. But they clearly have some work to do along the offensive line so they can get that run game going.
Yeah, and I'm not as worried about this team. I just think this was the first game with a new coordinator. And he's going to tweak the scheme a little bit, right, to add his own flavor to it. And I think that's what we saw this first time around. But you mentioned all the weapons. Jameson Williams, the two-headed monster in the backfield, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta. And Green Bay had enough guys on defense to shut all those guys down. I don't think very many teams in the league are built like the Green Bay Packers are on defense to be able to handle that many weapons.
It's going to be fun to see how the NFC North shakes out. If that's our first taste of what that division is going to look out, it'll be fun to see. Let's go over to the West, where we had the 49ers and the Seahawks squaring off. New quarterback Sam Darnold was like this close to setting the tone for the Seahawks, but instead that fumble at the end of the game ran. What do you make of Sam Darnold almost getting the Seahawks that win today?
Well, see, it's a big difference coming from where he came from in Minnesota, where you had Justin Jefferson, you had a Jordan Addison, you had all these guys to throw to. And not that he does not have weapons in Seattle, but he doesn't have that vertical presence in this offense. And so they're still learning. They're still learning. Jackson Smith and Jigba, Cooper Kupp, they're learning how to play with each other because they're similar style guys. And so for me, seeing Sam Darnold, this is just going to be a work in progress. And with Clint Kubiak now being the offensive coordinator, he has experience in this scheme. It's just these guys working together and him getting to know his weapons in Seattle a little bit better.
I think there's going to be a similar theme in this game as well. I think as Sam Darnold is somebody who likes to work off the play action pass too, and to take the pressure off of him, you can be able to run the football, and they just weren't able to give him a consistent enough run game. I thought that both the Seahawks and the Vikings downgraded this year at quarterback, and we saw Geno Smith look really good today for the Raiders over in New England, and we'll still yet to be seen what the Minnesota Vikings do. But I do think this could take some time for Sam Darnold to get more comfortable in that system.
Yeah, and like Ram said, they don't really have anybody that stretches a defense, and so you can play him in a phone booth, and that's always a problem when you're a quarterback who has driven the ball down the field off of play action and likes to take those shots. If you don't have those guys available, it's hard to take those shots. So it's going to be a transition period. What did he throw for 150 yards today?
150 yards,
it's got to be
16 of 23.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't an awful performance, but it's got to be 220 at least, you know. So there's our concerns. Let's be real about Sam Darnold. You are what you are, they say in this league, and for a long time he was bad. And then last year, Kevin O'Connell took him in and kind of rejuvenated his career. But do you go back to being Sam Darnold again, or are you somewhere in between? We don't know, and there's still questions about him out there.
Well, especially when you look at the end of last season, that was kind of the conversation, right? Was, Sam Darnold, he rebranded himself, and then in the postseason, he went back to that same ways there. So something to pay attention to. On the other side of this one, we did see George Kittle get the touchdown, but we also saw him pick up a hamstring injury. Danny, when you think about all of the other injuries that San Francisco is dealing with going into the season and the uncertainty there, where's your concern meter for San Francisco?
It's up there because it's going to put a lot more pressure on Brock Purdy to carry a lot of the workload. And he did come up big when he had to at the end of the game, but this is a,
sort of.
Yeah, well, I mean, sort of. I mean,
he threw a floater into the end zone that should have been
amazing. It is, but it is amazing how it works. When sometimes you give him a chance, you can get that done. But I do think this is a team that has been snake bitten with the injury bug, and to see a player like Kittle go down, I think it's obviously a big cause for concern as a team that has Super Bowl aspirations. They've got to be healthy, and they've got to surround Brock Purdy with good talent.
All right, we'll keep our eye. We're going to talk about some injuries later in the show, but definitely something to keep in mind for the 49ers going forward. I want to keep the conversation with another quarterback that kind of all had us scratching our heads. Bo Nix. I mean, my goodness, we spent so much time talking about Jaden Daniels and the sophomore slump and what to expect. And all four of us, I should say, were sitting in that room going, what are you doing? I mean, Pete, How concerned are you with Bo Nix and what he performed today?
Well, it's still only one. Again, it's one game.
I know.
You come out a little slow, a little sluggish, but he turned the ball over, and that's the thing about him. And sometimes when you get a whole season, and you know this, you get a whole season of tape on a guy, you can figure it out. You know those boots that he was working so well last year? A couple times they grabbed them as he booted out, and they were hitting them because they were ready for him. They know what they're going to do. So it's nice that Sean Payton can scheme up stuff for him, but eventually it works. The field, you know, as a quarterback, it works like this. You got to play in here, and can he play in there consistently? That's still the question about him. You said it when we were in the green room. Is there tape on him, and is there a book on him now?
And I think the book is you take away his legs, because I remember last year it was like, I didn't know Bo Nix was that athletic. He can run a little bit. I thought that was a huge aspect of that offense. And then he does work the underneath routes. Push him, make him push the field vertically. It's not a strong suit. I know he's taken advantage of it, and he proved a lot of critics wrong, but if you start taking away those underneath routes, he is not the most accurate person throwing the ball down the field. So I thought it was a bit, I'm not like the alarm bells aren't sounding yet for Bo Nix,
no.
But I do think this, if you had a candidate for sophomore slumps, Bo Nix was somebody I would have had in there in that group of let's keep an eye and see what happens when they start to take away what he does best.
Yeah, and you gave Titans defensive coordinator Denard Wilson a full offseason to scheme, and this is what Denard does. He finds those little holes in your game that he can exploit, and I think we saw that early. Now, the one thing I noticed, and I'm not going to venture off in the quarterback world, Danny, but to me on those errant throws, it was like Bo's feet weren't always set. His feet were staggered, or if one foot was off the ground, his platform was just very inconsistent, and to me that led to a lot of errant throws that should have been gimmies. Right, the ones that you know as a quarterback, when you have a layup, you got to make the layup, and he missed on those throws, and the Titans defense, made him pay in the short-term part of it. But to finish a game with giving up 4 turnovers and you still win the game, you got to count your blessings and take them as you can get them, because wins are very hard to come by in this league.
Here's the other part. You mentioned, and he was throwing across his body as he's fading away across the field. You can't do that in this league. They'll eat that alive. And he got away with a lot of that last year. And I think he's got to be sound as a quarterback in the pocket. Throw it away. You can throw it away sometimes. You can't play hero ball all the time. Sometimes you just got to throw it away.
There were quite a few mistakes in that one. Real quick, we've got to hit a break here, but thumbs up or thumbs down for Cam Ward NFL debut today?
How about in the middle?
Yeah, I mean, he was
So we'll
sacked
give him like
7 times, so I give him a middle for just being able to be a playmaker.
Can we do this?
We can do this.
Yeah, halfway.
Right there.
And I do think he looked fine. Like it wasn't like the moment was too big for him. He'll be fine. You can see why they're going with him because of what he can do with his legs behind that
120 yards
line.
though, or whatever it was he threw for. It's got to be better than that.
Listen, Titans fans should be encouraged. He made some big-time throws, and he made throws where you saw why he was the #1 pick. He has the little things to clean up. That one drive where they got the ball after the muff, and then he gave up 2 big sacks, I think, that were 30 yards and lost, that took away points off the board that could have been a difference in swinging the game. Those are all things he'll learn as he grows and as a starting quarterback in the National Football League.
All right, so we're going right in the middle with Cam Ward.
All
right,
right here.
right here. Let's take our quick break here on Game Day Recap. Before we do, though, I want to get you updated on Sunday Night Football. It was the Buffalo Bills striking first. Dalton Kincaid scoring the first touchdown for Buffalo. The Ravens did just respond with a field goal, so first quarter ticking away. It is 7-3. We will keep you updated as this game rolls along, but we've got to hit a break here on Game Day Recap. When we come back, everybody was wondering how Aaron Rodgers would do against his former team. Well, he made some history along the way. Of course he did. We'll talk about it when you come back to Game Day Recap. Recap here on CBS Sports HQ. Mike Tomlin told our Evan Washburn earlier this preseason that one of the things he admires about Aaron Rodgers is his joy of the game. He called it contagious at the start of training camp. I wonder how much Rodgers loved getting that win against his former team, one of several notable veteran quarterbacks suiting up in a new spot. And Rodgers telling us he felt pretty good after that win in the Steel City. Take a listen.
You spoke about the meeting with Aaron Glenn on McAfee a few months ago. Beating him, is there significance in that, since he basically told you to your face that he didn't think you were right for that team?
Yes, that's what he did.
So there's significance in beating him for you?
I was happy to beat everybody associated with the Jets.
Not holding anything back, our guy Aaron Rodgers. And for good reason, guys. 4 touchdowns today, 244 passing yards of 22 of 30 there. That is the most passing touchdowns in a Steelers debut. I mean, Danny, I'll come to you, our resident quarterback here. How much of that you think really was playing in his mind? And he went out there and did a good job.
He was highly, highly motivated. But I also thought you saw a version of Aaron Rodgers which looks further and further removed from the Achilles injury, because the first half of last season he clearly was still hampered by it. But then towards the end, you sort of saw vintage Aaron Rodgers. And I'm curious to know what you guys think, because I think the quarterback position is easier to play than it ever has been. As far as the rules of the game favor the passing game, you can't touch quarterbacks. You can't come anywhere near them. And if you've got 20 years of experience seeing every look that's ever been there, I just thought Aaron Rodgers looked so comfortable knowing exactly where to go with the football. There were some pressures that they tried to dial up, but he knew exactly which guy to go to, what was going to be the best option for him, and he looked totally comfortable within that pocket. And oh, by the way, that mobility, he's not going to ever be the Aaron Rodgers that he was as an MVP, but he's shown the ability to be able to escape pressure, move around just enough to buy a little bit of extra time. I think this is a reason I like the Steelers to be a playoff team.
About 10 years ago, I was at his locker in Green Bay, and he told me that 40 is the new 30. He might be right.
Yeah.
I mean, he looked like Aaron Rodgers today. Some of those throws across the body, across the field, he had a lot of velocity on it. He hasn't lost any velocity, I don't think, or much at all on his fastball, and I think that's the biggest difference. You mentioned his ability to move around. Last year, for half the season, he could not move around. He was not a guy who could move like he normally does. Remember all that talk the year before, I'll be back in December, maybe I'll make it back. Well, he fooled everybody. He wasn't close to being back last year. And then when he got healthy at the end of last year, he looked like Aaron Rodgers. He threw the ball like Aaron Rodgers. He put up good numbers like Aaron Rodgers, and it's carried over to this team right now. He looked great today, and if he plays like that for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're going to be in the playoff race.
It is his first game with 4 or more passing touchdowns and no interceptions since 2021 against the Bears. So that shows you, Pete, to your point, how he's taking those steps to look like the old Aaron Rodgers. Ran, from a front office perspective here, all we heard going into this, this big move with him going to Green Bay was he was toxic. He's a cancer. I don't know if we want him in the locker room, but here he is. He puts up a good performance, a historic performance as well. So talk to me about how he kind of quieted that narrative, or did he, in your opinion?
Well, I will say that I was one of those that didn't understand the fit because it just didn't feel like a Pittsburgh Steeler culture fit. But the one thing you know about this team and this organization is who they have at the leadership spot, and that's Mike Tomlin. And there's very few guys that get out of character in a Mike Tomlin-run building, because those guys eventually leave and become other people's problems.
Unless you're a receiver.
And they leave and become other people's problems. And to quote Bill Parcells, you'd rather be a year early than a year late.
True.
And so what Aaron Rodgers showed today, and first of all, let me rewind here, because we got to give Arthur Smith some credit. The way he managed him, the way he managed this offense, and was able, like Danny talked about, get Aaron on the move. And no, he's not moving like he used to, but that arm is still alive. And there's certain guys, there are certain humans, like the classic shooter. Steph Curry's going to always be able to shoot the jumper. If he's 50, 60, 70, Aaron Rodgers is one of those guys that's going to always be able to throw the ball. And he showed that today, no matter what his age is. And the guys around him stepped up and made plays. The Calvin Austins, that one ball he had, contested ball 50-50 for a smaller guy, he went up and high-pointed the ball. And we know how much Aaron Rodgers loves to throw the back shoulder throw. And they were spot on and on the money with all his new receivers. So great job by Aaron today, and they should be encouraged.
I will say this, though, Haley, about your question about the criticism leadership that comes up. It's easy when you win.
Yeah.
Right? And everybody's going to love you when you win. What happens when they face a rough patch? What happens when a couple receivers drop the balls? That, I think, historically, because I think Aaron has very high expectations. The game comes easy to him. He makes these great plays. When the players around him don't step up and make those plays, that, I think, is when it's been more challenging for him to be that leadership role, to take a guy under his wing and kind of encourage him. He's been more likely to call guys out publicly. And so we'll see. The other thing about Arthur Smith, that combination, he actually addressed that after the game, was talking about it, said, hey, I heard some of the criticism that I couldn't work with him, that there was going to be a clash there, a difference of mindset. And he said, nope. He said, he clearly heard all of the offseason criticism and was ready to shut everybody up.
Well, I'll say this, too. One thing about Aaron Rodgers and the flexibility he's had in other buildings to pick who his guys are, that's not happening in Pittsburgh. So when things do go bad, because they will hit a rough patch, he better figure it out and learn how to work with these guys, because they're not going to trade for Devontae Adams. They're not going to go trade for Alan Lazard and all of his guys. He's going to have to learn how to deal with DK Metcalf and Calvin Austin and the like. So he's going to have to figure that part out.
You mentioned as well some of the supporting cast, and we think the skill position's right, but Chris Boswell banging out a 60-yard field goal to win this one. That is the longest in franchise history. So good news there for the Steelers. Let's go to the other side of the matchup. And before we talk about Aaron Glenn's debut as the Jets head coach, let's hear from Aaron on what he thought in this first game.
Exciting game, but I'm not into moral victories. This was a game that, man, it was back and forth, a lot of fighting. I thought offensively we did not a lot of good things offensively that we can build on. The one thing to me that had to turn this game is, man, we can't have turnovers. We can't do it. We have to be a more disciplined team, right? There were some penalties that happened in that game that was true discipline issues. And, again, that's something that will be addressed, because you will not be on the field with this team if you're going to cause us to lose games.
Setting the tone early on there. The penalties a concern there. So obviously when it comes to Aaron Glenn, he's trying to run a tight ship. Pete, what'd you think about his debut?
Well, again, he's a defensive-minded coach, and the defense wasn't great, and that's the concern. You thought the defense would be a real strong suit of this team, and they didn't look like it today. So if you're Aaron Glenn and you come with a defensive pedigree, the first thing they look at is you. And so it's understandable that he's not happy with the way they played. And Aaron Glenn, he'll put it out there now. He's not going to hold his feelings back. He's going to put it out there.
He told Aaron Rodgers to go home after he flew him all the way across the country.
And then Aaron Rodgers beat him. So 1-0 for Aaron Rodgers the way it is right now. But I'm okay with Aaron Glenn calling his players out, and deservedly so for the way the defense played.
No doubt. I love that he called him out publicly. I think this is a great hire for the Jets. I still do. I think it was a rough loss. 7 penalties for 74 yards. He mentioned we're going to clean that up. He will hold his players accountable, but the thing I think players will appreciate about him, he holds himself accountable too. And every player, like, as long as if you keep that target on everybody in the building, which I think Aaron Glenn will, then players will respond to that type of coaching. When you get called out publicly, he's not afraid to call anybody out. But I think if you went back and said you controlled the time of possession 35 minutes to 25 minutes, if you had over 100 yards rushing in Breece Hall, I think you probably would have felt like you went out and won that game. But I think it's more alarming that defense did not come up to show, because that's going to be their calling card. And the fact they gave up 4 touchdown passes to Aaron Rodgers, that's one that's going to be tough to swallow.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Glenn is one of the better players that has played in this league, and just the ultimate competitor. So you wouldn't expect him to say anything less than no moral victories. However, my friend, the Jets scored 32 points.
Yeah,
and that's been a problem.
That's huge.
And so you should feel encouraged. Like Danny, you talked about, they had 182 yards on the ground. They had 394 yards of total offense, and they were 50% on third down. That is, you get this defense right, and you get this defense tailored to get some stops when you need them. They have enough on offense to squeak out some games. Not saying they're going to be a 10-9-win team, but they can be in some of these games and learn how to win these games, and that's what it's going to come. You're a first-time head coach, you're first time in this role. You're going to learn, and you got a bunch of new guys around you, a lot of holdovers from Robert Saleh's staff as well. But you have enough there to win these games. It's not going to always be pretty, but the Jets scored 32 points.
Yeah.
Does Justin Fields off to a good enough start to say, hey, maybe he can do some things with this offense? Because he made some throws today. You look at it and you go, okay, he looked like
Did he take a step forward, though? Because I know when he was playing for the Steelers a year ago, that was the thing, right, where everyone felt like the offense was stagnant with him behind center.
Well, it's still to be determined, but I thought he did some good things today.
He played good enough to win.
Yes.
That's all you want to ask from your young quarterback in his first start with this organization. He played well enough to win. And I think that's what the type of game that you're going to see from him throughout the season. They're going to work in the run game, work in his legs, not ask him to go out there and throw for 300-plus yards. If you can have that type of mindset and be within a field goal, I think you'll take that every time.
What'd you make of Justin Fields today?
All you needed him to do is progress.
Yep.
And he showed that he put in the work this offseason, and you saw it on the field today. Now he has to become consistent with the progress to lead this team to victories.
All right, so no moral victories for the Jets.
No.
But a positive step forward at the very least. We can all agree 32 points is certainly more than we expected them and more than what they did last year. So we always have progress. Unfortunately, for another team in the division, not so much. Tua Tagovailoa and the Dolphins, no good today. We'll talk about it after the break. Welcome back to Game Day Recap. Want to get you caught up on Sunday Night Football. The Ravens have taken the lead thanks to a Derrick Henry rushing touchdown. Look at the stat line already filled up when it comes to Derrick Henry. So this one still close, still plenty of time there in the second quarter, 13:35 on the clock. But Josh Allen and the Bills, their turn to strike back. Oh boy, things in South Florida not feeling good. It's pouring rain down here in Miami, and it was also pouring rain for the Dolphins out in Indianapolis after they got worked by Daniel Jones and the Colts. After the game, Tyreek Hill saying, quote, "This was just a big kick in the balls for us." And I don't think you could put it any more plain there. I didn't even know we could say that on TV, but instead here we are. That kind of puts it in perspective. Guys, I felt like I was watching a horror movie watching the Dolphins and the Colts today, and it was just almost, Pete, surprising because you knew that this team maybe wasn't going to be as talented as, you know, what they look like on paper. But were you expecting the performance from the Dolphins today that we got?
Not this bad. No, absolutely not. Look, I know it's tough to open on the road in the NFL. It's always hard to do. But you got to go in there and compete. And they didn't even compete. It wasn't even close. Tua was terrible. I mean, the offensive line wasn't good. He kept getting hit. He turned the ball over. And defensively, they made Daniel Jones look like he was Peyton Manning in a Colts uniform. And it's a bad combination. And they have major problems. Let's be real. You have the discipline problems from a year ago. They tried to be tougher this year. New coach. Look, ultimately it falls back on the head coach. Mike McDaniel went in there. He was loosey-goosey. He cared more about playing music at the practices, and somebody has a good practice, they can play their music. Whoa, you wear the orange jersey. Give me a break.
You hate that orange jersey.
I hate the whole idea of lack of discipline. Remember at the end of last season, he said, I find these guys, but they still were late. Well, that's on you. It's a reflection of you. So the problem is Mike McDaniel. And I think Mike McDaniel's seat just got really, really hot today.
I think it feels like the end is around the corner.
Like during the season?
Yes. If it goes this bad. No, I mean, I'm not saying. I'm saying it would. I'm not saying they should do it. I'm saying it's starting to feel like it might be by necessity. How do you go into week 1 of the NFL season? It's supposed to be the easiest time to get everybody up, and you come out flat and look like that. That was an embarrassing performance for the Miami Dolphins, and for all the offseason criticism, there's something that feels broken. I think the relationship between Tua and Tyreek is broken. I think the relationship with Mike McDaniel and his players feels broken, where they do not respond to him as a coach that is very feared or respected in that locker room. I think they like him. That's not always a good thing if you're best friends and buddy-buddy with your coach, because they've walked all over him. They are not a very mentally or physically tough team right now, and if they don't turn this thing around soon, I think the writing is going to be on the wall.
Yeah, it was talked about all offseason, right? That this team needs to be tougher. This team needs to be more physical, more aggressive. And then you come into week 1 against a very physical, tough, and aggressive team in the Indianapolis Colts, and it didn't show like you improved in those areas. You look at this Miami defense, they gave up 156 rushing yards. And it's very hard to win games in the National Football League when your defense is giving up 156 yards rushing. But then on the offensive side of the ball, they only had 46 plays. They only had 46 plays, they only had 12 rushing attempts, which in Mike McDaniel's offense, the key component is being able to run the ball or have the threat of running the ball. And we know the play action pass is a big part of Tua's game in those in-breaking routes. And if you have no threat of running the ball, you virtually have no opportunity to win.
I will say their secondary was decimated during training camp. It looked like that's going to be exploited for a while until they can figure it out. And with Daniel Jones looking as comfortable as he did in the pocket, it doesn't look like they're going to have much pass rush to help out an inexperienced, not very good secondary. I'm just telling you, I don't like calling for guys to be fired. That's not what I'm saying. I just think it's getting to the point, and it's only one weekend. They can turn this around, and we could all forget about this one. But they have to do some serious soul searching this week of practice. But why didn't they do that all offseason? Like everyone's been challenging them all offseason. Why didn't they respond in their biggest opportunity, which is week 1?
Well, here's the other thing. We say their secondary's been decimated. when Cater Coho is the guy you're talking about as the big major loss in your secondary, you got problems in your secondary. He's a nice little player, but come on, let's be real. Artie Burns, Artie Burns was passed around the league by a bunch of people. So think about this. They had issues with this team before the injuries. The injuries only compounded it. And ultimately, if you want to look at two guys, Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel, there's your problems. And they all get. How many times has Chris Greer stayed around?
He's got like 9 lives, man.
It's unbelievable. And so I think if you want to look at the change needs to come. Change will come. If they don't make the playoffs, I think you're going to see a new general manager, a new head coach, and you might see a new quarterback.
If they don't make the playoffs, they might not make 5 wins.
Well, if they don't make 5 wins, if they don't make 5 wins by midseason, you might see a change by then.
Okay, so the seat is hot for head coach Mike McDaniel. We will leave it at that. You know, the seat has been hot, it feels like, for Brian Daboll and the Giants, and I feel like they put up a valiant effort. I use that word kind of lightly when you're taking on the Commanders, but I think it was better than expected. The problem is, guys, afterwards, you know, this conversation about Russell Wilson and if he's going to be the guy, he clearly didn't have the best game. And Brian Daboll just kind of keeping things close to the chest, wouldn't announce who his starter for next week is going to be. Take a listen to what he had to say about his QB1 after today's loss.
Is it safe to say that Russell was still your starter?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we're just right here after the game. I got confidence. We got to do better around overall, coaches, players, around everybody. So, we'll get focused and ready to go on Dallas. Go ahead, Matt.
In fairness, you're not answering this. It sounds like you're not answering.
Well, we're talking about after every game. I got confidence in Russ. So we're going to go back. We'll evaluate the tape. This game isn't on Russell Wilson. It's not on Russell Wilson. I want to make that clear. So. I have confidence in Russ. We got to do a better job all the way around.
All right, so he's got confidence. How about this? New York, no touchdowns in 3 straight season openers. Pete, I believe. I'm just looking at the dates, Jack.
I like that logo, though. That Lions
This is
logo.
the old Lions joke, or the old Lions logo there. Jack is saying, Pete, that you covered this Lions team, and that's why I LOL'd. But obviously, there's some concerns.
I was there for that.
There's obviously concerns when it comes to Russell Wilson out in New York.
Well, yeah, there should be. He shouldn't be playing. I mean, he's not very good. His career is over, the way I see it, as a starting quarterback in the NFL. He's a backup. You drafted a kid. You clearly like him in Jackson Dart. Get on with it. And they say they start the season with Russell Wilson because you give the team some hope. You give the guys
the
in the
best
locker
chance
room.
to win. That's what you go with, the best chance to win.
Does he give him the best chance to win?
We don't know. That's the only thing. Jackson Dart is still a rookie. We don't see him every day at practice. I know we saw him in the preseason, and he looked pretty good, but you just don't know what the coaches are seeing every day in practice. I'll be surprised if they break the glass this early and go to Jackson Dart. I think he's right. They did not give enough help from around. I mean, Russell Wilson was the leading rusher on the team. They've got to give him a run game. He just, at this point in his career, is not the type of quarterback that can put the team on his back if there's deficiencies around him. So if he can't, I just don't know if it's. I think it's too early to go to Jackson Dart. Oh, gosh.
Here's what I say, by the way. If you're Brian Daboll, I'm going to Jackson Dart pretty quickly.
Because your job's on the line, right?
You might save your own job by playing him. If you play Russell Wilson for a long period of time, you're not saving your job. If they play Jackson Dart and he learns the system, and even if you don't win a lot of games and he shows progress, they might say, hey, we might need a new general manager, but let's keep the head coach because we don't want the quarterback to learn a new system. It could happen.
What do you think about that, Ran? Like, from a front office perspective, how do you weed through the decisions here of who you start and who you don't week in, week out?
Well, first, Pete's always trying to get the GM fired.
Sure. Pounding the table.
Which is why I'm up here with you guys now. Pete was probably the loudest voice in Nashville.
Get the hell out of there.
To run me out because he made some comments while we were watching the game in the green room.
He's got receipts. That's what he's saying. He's got receipts.
Will Levis. I was on that bandwagon.
Yeah, you were.
But what I'll say is this, because, and it's a hard situation to be in if you're Joe Shane or Brian Daboll, because you take the quarterback because you got to prepare for the future. But you also have to focus on your now so you could be a part of the future. But you also don't want to screw the kid up and put him out there too soon. I have been in these situations where we took a little time at the Rams to bring Jared Goff in. right? It was calculated, knowing a stretch of the season where, hey, if we're out of it, this is the perfect defense to start this kid against to build confidence. And that's what you need. Jackson Dart looked great this preseason. However, it was this preseason. It was very vanilla looks. And so now you give these defensive coordinators who are paid a ton of money to scheme up, and they have a rookie. They're going to take away his weapons. And that leads me on to say, how many weapons does this Giants offense really have? I mean, you only had 15 runs today by running backs. Like Danny said, Russ led the team in carries. He had 8. Actually, he had 8 carries for 44 yards, which was the most on the team. And then you target Malik Neighbors, 12 times. You gotta surround these guys with more weapons to give them opportunity. It doesn't matter if it's Russ, if it's Jameis, or whoever the quarterback is, you have to give them more weapons. If you go back to the Seattle days, Russ is used to playing complementary football, playing behind a really good defense, a strong running game, and he kept the game manageable, and then he would always take over the game in the fourth quarter with his legs and give them a chance to close out games. And now he does not have these same weapons around him that he had in Seattle at once upon a time.
By the way, we got 2 headlines today. Mike McDaniel should be fired, and Russ Wilson has always been a game manager. I mean,
your job's easy today. You got to do some cuts in a little bit, too.
I don't think there's any chance he makes the move to Jackson Dart for a road game against Dallas, a game that I think they can win with Russ.
So then look at this, Danny, and you tell me, when would you think?
So here's what I thought. Now looking at it again, I think, because I thought after 6 weeks, you have the extra time after they play Philly on Thursday night, then they go to Denver. But I wouldn't be surprised if you did it after 4 weeks. Like if they're 1-3, and then you go to New Orleans, like I almost feel better about it being out of New York. If you're on the road, I know it's not the best. You think, well, why would you want them on the road? You don't have the crowd booing. You don't have the crowd getting all over you. You get your feet under. And I think that's a winnable game for a young rookie that he possibly could win in New Orleans.
Maybe he'd go on the road and go 17-37 for 168, no touchdowns. I mean, that's what Russell Wilson did. I mean,
but Ran makes a great point, though. Russ, you're not worried about Russ's confidence. He's already won a Super Bowl. He's already been there. With a young quarterback, I do think you have to manage it very delicately because you don't want to ruin him for the long term.
And Pete, he's coming out of that Ole Miss system, right? Which is just read the backer. If he buzzes here, you throw here. If he goes here, you go there. And now we're talking about coverage rotations. We're talking about fronts that are moving. These safeties are doing a bunch of different things. And so this is all a part of the game he has to learn. I'll say this much. There is a reason why they didn't start him after him having the preseason that he had. Because, again, we're going to use Russ as the example. The year that Russell Wilson was drafted in Seattle in the 3rd round, they signed Matt Flynn to a pretty big deal at that given time, and Russ beat him, and they put him in and they rolled, right? The Giants could have very well done this with Jackson Dart if they felt he was ready. Because like we all sat up here and talked about, Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, people are calling for their heads, right? And so you're going to go with whomever gives you the best chance to secure your, as the kids say, secure your bag. And if Jackson Dart was that, I believe he would have started week 1. I think they went into this week feeling like Russell Wilson gave them the best chance to win.
Again, I would probably agree with that. But
how similar is this to the Drake May situation that we saw last year with the Patriots, where we kind of counted down to wait and see when he would get his opportunity?
That's what it should be.
Yeah.
That's what it should be. And what was it, week?
That's why I think it's probably a month. I do think because I don't think it'd be shocking if they went to Dallas and won. They played a really good team today, right? We all think
it would be
shocking to me.
It would be shocking. and by the way, it would be shocking to me too. Russell Wilson, the way he played today, isn't going to Dallas.
But there's a lot of improvement to be made between week 1 and week 2, and I think Washington is a really good football team that could potentially win the Super Bowl.
If the Giants beat the Cowboys next week, y'all will not see me here in this seat. My goodness.
If we could see that schedule again. I mean, it's
tough.
Where are you going to pick a spot for him to go?
That's what I think.
I mean, you have this Cowboys defense, this Chiefs defense, the Chargers.
Okay, so which one of those games is Russ? Which one of those games is Russ winning?
You give him a chance, though. You let him see if he can do it.
Which one of those games is Russ winning? Go ahead, the first 4.
Maybe Dallas. That's the one I'm looking at.
Dallas.
You're not invited back on Game Day Recap if you keep pushing that narrative.
Is he winning against
the Chiefs?
That's the most winnable.
Right now on paper, is he winning against the Chiefs and Chargers? No.
No.
Okay.
So then that's where I think after that, if you start 0-4, then you're breaking the glass if you're Brian Daboll.
Listen, I'll end my thought on this
Please,
subject with this. Honestly, looking at that schedule, if they don't have better players around them, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is.
Right. Because you were talking about Russ as a third-round pick at Seattle. He had Marshawn. He had the Legion of Boom on the other side. Like, he had a defense where he didn't have to do a whole lot. That is not the luxury of any quarterback for the Giants.
So if it doesn't
right now.
matter, get on with it with the young kid.
Yeah, I do agree with that, but I think you go a month. I think you go four games and you see how it goes. Because I do think the only way to learn, you can try to learn in the classroom, you can try to learn from watching Russ, but the only way to truly learn is actually get the reps.
He has to know how to throw a moon ball by now. He watches Russ do it all the damn time.
Well, he did throw the pass off of the jet ski. I don't know if you guys saw that over the summer. So he's got the arm. I will say Drake May took over in week 6 last year, so that's October against the Texans.
That's about right.
So
That's originally, I thought after that Thursday night game, they have 10 days to give a little extra time.
All right, I'm still reeling at Danny saying that this Giants team is going to beat the Cowboys. So let's move on and talk about Duval County. We had a little bit of a lightning delay between the Jags and the Panthers today, but it really didn't matter. I feel like the Jags took care of business here. But I do want to talk about the two-way star that is Travis Hunter. As we talk about his snap count, 39 on offense, 6 snaps on defense. He did lead the team in receptions, guys, but only had 33 yards. So, Ran, when you look at the performance and kind of this excitement that we got about finally having another two-way star in the NFL, did this live up to the hype, in your opinion?
Not necessarily live up to the hype, but there were moments and there were flashes where you saw if they just give him the ball with space, that he's going to be an exciting player for this offense. Now, this is where their new head coach has to be more creative and giving Travis those opportunities on screens and, a little underneath crossing routes where he can catch the ball on the move and use his speed and his elusiveness. And you just knew on defense that they were going to work him in slow. They were going to work him in slow. He was going to be a part of the sub package, come in, maybe play some inside, play some outside. And he gave up the one big reception to Tedderoy McMillan where it looked like he was kind of like, I don't know if I really want to run in there, right, and get, as we would say, get your face wet. So, did it live up to the hype? I would say no, but at the same time, I'm not worried. I feel like they will learn how to use him moving forward and give them opportunity to make explosive plays.
I can tell you this with 100% certainty. The plan was to play him at corner mostly and a lot of receiver. He hurt his shoulder a couple weeks ago. And when that shoulder injury happened, it kind of changed the way they felt about it. And they said, okay, you're going to be a full-time receiver and play spot in at corner. So I think in the ideal scenario, when he's completely healthy, they want him to be an outside corner with Jordan Lewis sliding inside to be the nickel and then play 35, 40 plays on offense as well. That's the plan. So you heard, the report saying that they'll change from week to week. They will change from week to week. But Rand made a good point. There was a bubble screen today where a defensive lineman came off and made a tackle on him. If he doesn't come off and make the tackle, he's to the house and he's ready to go. There was a play where he's down the field for a long ball that would have been a touchdown. Trevor Lawrence didn't get it over the defensive back who sunk on the play. It was J.C. Horn, and it was intercepted. So you can see little glimpses of it that he's going to put up some big numbers offensively.
He'll be fine. The shoulder, I think, probably impacted the usage. I also think they're up 23 at halftime. How much are you holding back potentially to when you have plays that you've drawn up specifically to him that you don't want to put on tape because you want to show it when you actually need it? So I'm not worried about Travis Hunter at all. I can't wait till we see him because I think you made this move and you told people you were going to use him on both sides of the ball. I want to see him out there for 35 on both sides, 35 snaps on both sides of the ball. He can do it. I'm telling you, after watching him play 114 a game in college, I think he can do it at the NFL. He is a rare breed. I mean, he can absolutely handle the workload. And maybe the most impressive thing about him is that he can handle it mentally, because that's the biggest jump, is the knowledge of having to be able to consume an NFL playbook on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball. But I think he's up for all of it.
And they've done a good job with him because he's only learned how to be the one receiver spot. Normally they make you learn all the positions. They make him learn the one in the slot, so it takes a little bit of the stress of his mind off of it. They say he has the lungs of a marathon runner.
Yeah.
So from that standpoint,
ultra-marathon runner.
So from that standpoint, he can handle it, but can he handle it from the physical standpoint? That's the question. Already with the shoulder a little dinged up.
Let's go. I'm going to give you last word, Pete, because we're going to talk about your favorite subject, Bryce Young. Safe to say he took a step back, take a step forward here. How do you evaluate what he has done, especially when you think about how he got benched last year in week 3?
Well, I think last year at the end of last season was a little bit of fool's gold with him. I think he did some good things, but everybody rushed to say he'd arrived and it was all about him and he's, that now he can be their franchise quarterback. Today we saw a regression. That's what that was. He did not play well. On a 4th down play, he threw the ball away into the stands. You can't do that. I mean, just little things like that bother me. So I think we saw him come back to being Bryce Young again, but Bryce Young again. And I don't think that's a good thing for the Carolina Panthers.
Ran, he likes firing GMs. He also likes benching quarterbacks, too. I'm sure he was yelling for me to get benched at one time, too.
I think I was, actually. Sit Danny Kanell down, right. Damn it. Look at this.
Get him out of there. All right, we got to hit another break here on Game Day Recap. But when we come back, we'll keep the quarterback conversation going. Hey, did the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just win the division in Week 1? Baker Mayfield picking up a big win for his team. We're going to the South when you come back. At the final numbers, Baker Mayfield finishes 17 of 32 for 167 yards, 3 touchdowns, though, and nearly 40 yards on the ground there. He got some running help from Bucky Irving as well, but the star of the show, Egbuka, bringing in that touchdown, setting the tone for his NFL career. As we welcome you back here into our studios, guys. I want to talk about Baker Mayfield and what he was able to do with this Bucs team. Pete, I kind of asked you this question earlier, tongue-in-cheek, but based on the rest of the division, we saw the Saints, we saw the Panthers, and we now see the Falcons losing at home. Did the Bucs kind of wrap up the division with this win today?
I thought they wrapped up the division before it started.
Fair.
I think they're the best team in the league. I think they're one of the best teams in the league. Once they get everybody healthy, and remember, they're playing without Tristan Wirfs at left tackle. He's one of the best left tackles in the league, and so you change the way you play on offense. And I thought they started sluggish today. They were a little off. Particularly Baker Mayfield. He didn't look the same. And then he settled in, and you saw that throw to Egbuka. I mean, my gosh, he's being pressured. He stands in there and makes a throw down the field. I think the division is over. And I think that they're the best team, and it's clear that they're the best team. And their schedule's tough. It gets tough at certain points, but going on the road to open the season and winning at Atlanta is a statement game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I agree. I mean, let's be honest, this is a 2-team division, and to get that in Atlanta was massive. Baker's a gamer. I think when he responds best is kind of when the chips are against him, and that throw he made to Egbuka, the game-winning throw, that was vintage for me for him. He's a little bit of a gunslinger. I think he likes getting kind of dirty, and when that game starts to kind of break down, that's when he steps up and rises to the occasion. But Haley, you mentioned it. I think Emeka Egbuka was one of the biggest additions this team made to him as just a rookie. Pete and I were talking during the break, having covered him, talked to him at Big Ten Media Days a couple years ago. He is as impressive as it gets, yes, from a skill standpoint, but also as a pro. Like, this is the type of guy, when you talk to him, you're like, this guy's going to play in the NFL for 10-plus years, and he's going to have a ton of production because he knows how to prepare. He knows how to do the work, and it was great to see him get the production today because he's going to get great matchups because of the attention that Mike Evans brings on the other side. So I thought this was a huge get for Tampa Bay, and the fact that he was able to give that type of performance his first game, I think that's massive for the Bucs.
Baker Mayfield told me in May when I was there in minicamp that Egbuka was among the smartest rookies he's ever been around in his career. He said he knew all the positions. You know, guys come in, we were talking about Hunter learning one position, he learned them all. And he's just one of those guys that's such a smart football player. He's going to be a big-time player for them.
Did you pick Baker for MVP this year?
I didn't.
I thought somebody around here did, and I don't think it's a crazy.
I said I had a statement a bold statement where I said I think he's going to be in the MVP conversation, and I think he will be.
From your perspective, because I want to talk about the Falcons in this one too, because they were 3 points away from, at the very least, taking this to overtime. So when you look at Michael Penix and how he's kind of put his stamp on this team, what did you make of the Falcons?
So I felt like Michael Penix really took the next step because I felt like towards the end of last season when he came in, I felt like the media, we hyped it up a little bit more than what the performance showed, right? He barely completed 50% of the passes across that stretch. But you saw a guy in this offense that just looked comfortable. And then he did the one thing that you don't give him enough credit for was being able to run the ball and extend plays when they needed them. The big play for the first down, controversial call. We'll talk about that at some point.
He gave himself up.
and then the touchdown late. And so he gave them an opportunity to win the game, which as a quarterback, that's all you need. You have to put your team in position. But Chase McLaughlin, the kicker for Tampa Bay, he missed the extra point, which is even why they even had a chance to kick a game-tying field goal. And we won't go down that rabbit hole because we did it with Pete already. And I don't want to get Pete started.
We're going to get him started later.
But I will say this. I don't think that Tampa Bay has this division wrapped up.
Okay.
Because I think the Falcons have enough to score points on offense, and I think this defense, particularly secondary, is going to really come together. And once they get those young edge rushers, they figure out a role for these guys to get these guys on the field more. I think this defense is going to really come together, and I think they're going to be a balanced team in this division. And also, I want to throw in that the Falcons did sweep the Bucs last year. So I just want to throw that out there.
But they're 0-1.
They're 0-1 now. And
I will say this, though,
and they could take that, and it means nothing.
I thought Penix, we're doing our later in the show top 3 quarterback performance. I considered Penix as a top 3 performer, and they lost, but he did enough to win the game. I think when we were talking about when to play young quarterbacks, the fact that he got to play those 4 or 5 games at the end of last season, I thought that was huge for him to start realizing, recognizing the type of intricate details that goes in from week to week where he's got that head start now. I thought he looked really, really comfortable.
And Pete, just real quick, there's a big difference in what Michael Penix stepped into last year versus what you're trying to throw Jackson Dart into. Penix has weapons.
True.
Like tons of weapons.
True.
And Jackson Dart, not so much.
I mean,
Michael
got a couple
Penix
weapons.
finished 27 of 42, 298 passing yards, and of course the 2 touchdowns. So a good start there.
By the way, real quick, and you referenced it, giving yourself up. They got to work on that rule because he didn't give himself up, and they called him giving himself up.
We need to get Ruben in here so you can record that for social, so we can put it out there on our social page. I want to talk about Geno Smith, guys, because I feel like, he's feeling energetic. He's got Pete Carroll on the sidelines, and they go out and they get it done against the Patriots. He had 362 passing yards, a touchdown. He did have an interception there, but the ultimate thing with this is that the Raiders pick up a big win over the Patriots. When you think about, Ran, how Geno Smith sort of came into this new organization almost with a chip on his shoulder, ready to prove that he still can get it done. What did you make of what Geno and the Raiders were able to do, even with some injuries in this game?
Found a way to get a win. And that's all you look for. Because Geno Smith, he's going to always have a chip on his shoulder. From the way he entered the league and what people have said about Geno throughout his entire career, and all he's done is, particularly since his time in Seattle, is figure out ways to win games. And that's where he's going to continue to grow. Now, there's going to be more on his shoulders with this Raiders team as Pete Carroll continues to build out the team. If my memory serves me correct, going back to Pete's first year with Seattle, they had over 270 transactions that first year. And they kept churning the bottom of the roster till they can figure out the right group of guys. And I expect to, even though they won today, I expect to see them do that until they can get those right group of guys in there. And it's all going to fall on Geno's shoulder to kind of steady the ship and keep them in games that they can win.
I mean, you look at churning the roster, they need to churn roster on the defensive side. The defense was okay today, but you look at that makeup of that defense, you go Crosby and then a bunch of guys. I mean, even in the secondary, they have some issues back there. I do think offensively, if Geno plays the way he played today and Genti gets it going, they're going to score points, and they should be an offense that can score some points. So I'm looking forward to seeing Geno continue to develop in that system. And for a first game, he put on a heck of a show today.
I love Geno's story. He's taken the long road. What he did in Seattle was phenomenal. And then to show him he was a playmaker. I mean, the touchdown pass was a beautiful anticipation ball to Trey Tucker, the one where he kind of blooped it over, and it was a great touch pass. Then how about him making plays where he's outside the pocket, the 4th down conversion where he's rolling to his left and then knows where to go with the football, throws it all the way back across the field to his right, which is not the most advised pass. It's ill-advised to try to make those plays, but he made a couple of those. He's got some play. He's a playmaker. He's got some game left in him where I think it could make the Raiders an interesting story this season.
By the way, their head coach, of course, Pete Carroll, the oldest coach in the NFL, 73 years, 357 days old, becomes the oldest coach.
We root for old guys around here.
We root for the old guys
Come on
here on Game Day Recap. All right, got to hit another break here on the show. When we come back, Pete's favorite subject, the kickers did not do their job today. One of them might get cut. You'll have to stick around to find out. Stay with us here on CBS Sports HQ. Welcome back to Game Day Recap. We have seen some egregious kicking performances today. Take a look at just some of the notable performances. We just showed you the Atlanta missed kick there from Younghoe Koo, 44-yard game-tying field goal as time expired. He missed that. Andre Schmidt, Pete feels like you should just be packing up your bags now. He did not have a great performance. So that leads us to this. We love dressing up our Pete Prisco. He's got his chef hat on, his chef apron. We are putting a couple of these players on the chopping block, and one of the fun things about our crew here is that we've got a GM on set. So Pete Prisco, of course, maybe going to kick some responsibilities over to you to handle the cutting responsibilities as when we welcome you back here on CBS Sports HQ. Pete, who are we starting with? Who's your #1 nomination here?
Well, I'm going to play assistant to the general manager. So I'm going to come in with my data on why we should make a change. And the 49ers need to get rid of Jake Moody. He missed 10 field goals last year. He was not very good. He's a third-round pick. So they go into training camp with a competition. He wins the competition, barely. So during the game today, he misses a 27-yard field goal. 27 yards. At halftime, they interviewed Kyle Shanahan, and he basically said, you got to make those kicks, in his words, which you know how Kyle is.
Yeah.
He was smug and direct. But I think if you got a guy that has problems one year, and now you go into the season and he misses a 27-yard field goal, which, by the way, I think the four of us could all make. You played soccer, didn't you? So you could make it.
Stand by.
Well, and I'll tell you what, he's a third-round pick. Your reluctance to cut your own third-round pick might be a reason he's still the kicker. So I bring to you, and you're the one who made the pick in this scenario. Is it time to cut Jake Moody?
I'm going to follow you with this. From 40 yards to 49 yards last year, he was 6 of 11.
Terrible.
From 50 plus, he was 4 of 9. 1 of 3 today. A miss from 27, like you mentioned, had another one blocked. Yes, we're calling for the iPad.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because we have a kicker that that I've scouted that I'm going to show you guys video of here in a little bit that I think we should bring in and potentially sign.
You got a kicker.
Yeah,
You got a kicker.
Found us one.
Do you have video of it? Do we have video of said kicker?
There
we go.
It's
There's
me.
my new kicker.
Look at that.
Oh, my God.
I'm the kicker. I actually want to loop this because that's my celebration.
How deep is that?
Let me give you some backstory. So this is when I was working in local news in Alabama. This is from about 30 yards out where the tee is set up. But as you see in the follow through, this is why I'm celebrating. That ball carried probably a good 15, 20 yards. So I'm going to call this 30 plus another 15. I mean, I'm just saying, if you need a kicker, call me. I think I still have some eligibility in college as well, so I can go back to the college ranks too. But if I can make a 44, 45-yarder.
Here's what we'll do. We'll sign you to the practice squad, and then we'll see how a week of practice goes.
Okay.
And then we may elevate you at the end of the week. No promises.
Okay.
But we'll sign you to the practice squad. Keep
Jake
Give me my
Moody,
first deal.
27-yard field goal, you made yours.
I
So
did.
You got your one up on him for today.
Watch out, Jake Moody. I'm coming for you, baby.
At least the 49ers won. That's not what the much Browns
You know what
can say.
Jake's agent would say? She's not facing any kind of rush like my guy was.
I'm just saying, get me out there, man. Like I said, that was a great story, by the way. I was doing a story at Auburn High School. They had the first ever female kicker for their program at Auburn High School. So shout out.
What they do with the cuts where you didn't make it?
Where I didn't make it.
They edit it out.
Edit it out. Your business. Come on.
That was probably
one take.
that was my second try.
Okay.
There you go.
The first one I kind of had to learn the mechanics of it, but my second try, not bad. So I could maybe make an impact in this game too. We've seen a lot of field goals made there, but the Ravens flexing their muscles there. They are up 20-10 on Pete's Buffalo Bills. They're your Super Bowl contenders. Pete, any thoughts here before we go to break?
Well, they better learn to tackle the Buffalo Bills because Derrick Henry's running wild, and unless they stop him, it's going to be a long night for him.
I will mention as we go to break here, Derrick Henry ties Jim Brown for 6th all-time in rushing touchdowns, while Lamar Jackson also punches one in. So things looking good for the Ravens. But is it looking good for some other teams across the NFL? We got to check on Micah Parsons when we come back here on CBS Sports HQ. Day recap. Of course, we're going to wrap up the show talking winners and losers. Hard to think there's no bigger winner than the Green Bay Packers, who got quite the debut from the Lion. Micah Parsons making things difficult for Detroit. Let's hear from the Packers after their big win.
These last 6 months was super draining, super toxic for everyone. I mean, it's something that, I don't think no player should have to go through. I think players' fate should be decided earlier. I think the fact that I was traded a week before the season, it was really outrageous and rough. It's something where I could have been with these guys getting better and better, and we could have had probably even more dominant start, if that was the decision we was going to make. So I'm just happy that's behind.
Okay, I'm gonna hold my response. But we all had a similar reaction to that.
Poor Micah. He only got $46 million a year and had to move to Green Bay. I mean, my gosh, give me a break, Micah. Trying time. And by the way, your agent was partly responsible for it, in case anybody's wondering.
Yeah. Okay. I have not recovered from that yet, but we will keep it pushing how we will. Let's talk winners and losers when it comes to the NFL. Pete, I'll come to you first. Who's your winner today?
The winner is the Green Bay Packers defense, and it's not just because of Micah Parsons. When I was there in the summer, I looked at that defense and I said, there's guys ready to take the next step. One of those guys was Edgerrin Cooper, the linebacker. He's a beast on the field, and he showed it today. But the interior defensive lineman, Wyatt on the interior, Lucas Van Ness now can move inside on passing downs. The cornerbacks, everybody counts those guys out. They're better players than you think. And the safeties, Xavier McKinney, Evan Williams, they're playmakers on the back end. I think this defense is ready to take the next step, and Micah Parsons adds to it, ready to take the next step. So Green Bay Packers defense served notice to the rest of the NFL. They're for real.
Who's your winner, Danny?
I'm going with a guy named Jake Tongas. And if you're out there saying, who the heck is that? I understand why, because this is his third year in the NFL, and he had 0 catches before today, but he had 3 catches for the San Francisco 49ers for a whopping 15 yards, but he did get the game winner from Brock Purdy. Pete, you were talking about that throw. He just kind of threw it up to an area, went up and got it. Game winner, huge for him. George Kittle goes down. Maybe he gets a little more opportunity, a little more run if Kittle's out for a little bit of an extended period. Hopefully not, but Jake Tongas, my winner for the day.
Yeah, for my fantasy sake, I hope George Kittle is back literally next week, but we'll keep it there. Ran, who's your winner for today?
I'm going with the Rams, and particularly their defense. And their defensive coordinator, Chris Shula, did a great job today. And I'm just wondering, could this be the beginning of the Rams becoming a defensive-led team? We know Matthew Stafford has dealt with a back injury. We don't know how long that's going to last. Matt's my age. And so we know as you get older and when the back goes out, it's out.
How's your back?
We're good. We're good. But we're talking about they held the Texans to 151 yards passing. They sacked C.J. Stroud 3 times, and then they held him to 2 for 9 on 3rd down. And then they made the big play. Nate Landman, who finished with 10 tackles, had the forced fumble to close out the game and ice the game for them. So this young Rams defense really stepped up today, and to me, they were the winners.
You don't worry about the corners a little bit?
Well, that is a concern.
Yeah.
But when you have a front like they have that can get after it, in the words of our good friend Brian McFadden, make it hot so we can squat. If these pass rushers are getting after him, the ball's going to come out quick.
My winner today is, of course, the kicker, Chris Boswell. I feel like I could challenge him for that 60-yarder, but nonetheless, it is the longest field goal in Steelers franchise history, so we got to get him some flowers there. My loser for today ran actually on the opposite side of your game. I'm going to Houston Texans, specifically their offensive line. There was just a lot of concern that they needed to get better going into this year. Then they had some injuries as well. So my loser today is the Texans. So, Ran, we'll work backwards. Who is your loser from today?
My loser is the Cincinnati Bengals offense. I mean, you spent a ton of money on Joe Burrow at quarterback, T. Higgins at receiver, Jamar Chase, and you were held to 141 total yards. That's 95 yards passing and 46 yards rushing on 49 plays. You need more out of this offense, based off of the money that they spent. And then this defense, which is supposed to be a weak spot, actually played pretty well today. And I know it's against the Browns offense, but you expect for this Bengals offense to put up points, and they just did not do it today. And Burrow, he was sacked 3 times, and they averaged 2 yards a carry. You need more from this Bengals offense.
My loser, it's the Carolina Panthers. This is a franchise which has been one of the worst in the NFL going on a few years now. And I was really excited to see Bryce Young, if he could take another step forward, because he's dealt with multiple coaches early. Last year he gets benched, showed some signs of promise on the back end of last season, but I thought you saw regression out there with 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. The game just feels like it's not coming to him. And I do worry about when he looks out there, he looks so tiny. If he maybe was, and I hate to say it, this guy might have been right, that maybe he wasn't big enough and physical enough and had the arm to make all the throws that he had to. The other thing, Dan Morgan talked about being more physical. They had Travis Etienne went off for 143 against them. I think it could be another long season for Bryce Young for the Carolina Panthers, and they might be in the market for a new quarterback next offseason.
My loser is the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. Look, they play cool music. Their coach wears cool shoes. They have no discipline, and it shows. They are a sloppy football team, and they play like it. And I think it starts with the head coach. It starts with the general manager. The roster isn't great. It's going to be a long season in Miami. And if the coach makes it, if Mike McDaniel makes it through the season, it will be a miracle in my eyes. I think he's in hot water right now, and you can have big changes on that roster. It's a terrible showing to open the season. You got guys feuding with each other. It's just not a good situation. So changes coming in Miami. You know, I was on the local radio show, and I ripped the Dolphins to shreds. And when I went to practice that day, I was walking up the bleachers, and a couple fans stopped me, and they said, "Oh, Pete, you're always on them." And one guy pulled me over, and he said to me, he goes, "You're right." He's a Dolphins fan, and he knows I'm right. They know I'm right. They're mad, they're angry, and they're frustrated, and they should be.
No orange jerseys are fun for our Pete Prisco. But we do want to wrap up with a little bit of fun here. I mentioned at the top of the show, Danny Kanell graciously filling in for us on week 1. That is because one of the other members of our team, Damian Harris, cannot be with us because he welcomed his second son into the world.
Golden.
Friday. Baby Golden joined the world. Lincoln Hub got to meet his big brother, I believe, yesterday as well. I did get a chance to talk to Damian today, guys. He's feeling good. He says big brother Dame is excited to be a big brother. Mom's doing well as well. So we just want to say hello to our guy Damian and hope things are going well there for baby.
He's a violator. You're not supposed to have babies during football season.
That's right.
No
fair,
babies.
She was supposed to have it like 3 weeks ago.
No babies. No weddings. Nothing during football season. Doesn't he know that?
Scolding him for this? That's going to do it for our first episode of Game Day Recap. There he is. We're going to get Ran on the promo, Ran. We're going to get your headshot post-show here. Catch us every Sunday, 8:30 Eastern. We're going to do it all again starting next week. But this has been so much fun, and we will see you next Sunday.
Beep.